Hi, I'm BJ, and this is the Arcane Alienist Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Arcane Alienist. We're here for our third installment of RPGaDay 2025. Since this is the last episode, I would want to make sure and give one final thank you to David Chapman of the Autocratic blog and Anthony, no relation to me, Boyd of Casting Shadows blog and also known as Runeslinger. They do this every month. They come up with a list of these prompts and encourage us to talk about, in a positive way, things we like about role playing games. Um, if you've been here for the last two episodes or for the last 2 or 3 years, as I've done this every August, then you already know that. But thanks, guys, again, and we'll wrap this up. And I'm eager to see what we have next year when the time comes around again. I got a little stuck on these last 11 prompts. I think I don't know what was going on. I tried to sketch something out and come up with something original, and it just felt like I was treading a lot of cliches, and nothing was really coming to me. So we may try to incorporate. We've got our prompts for each day of the month, but then there's also, if you look at the artwork for RPGaDay 2025, the bottom shelf of books in the art depicts some ways you can roll dice to help, uh, fuel your creativity. The note says to use these if you're uninspired by a prompt to add some extra elements. So that is what we will do, although I would say it's not a lack of inspiration because the prompts are a problem. I got a lot going on this month. Kids back to school. There's a bunch of stuff going on at work, and my father-in-law passed away over the weekend as I'm recording this. So yeah, we just got a lot on my mind, and so it's uh, it's maybe I don't have the creative juices that I had going into the previous 2 weeks. Anyway, let's see what we got here. The first prompt is unexpected. The second one is ally, and so I do think what I want to do here is that there is an unexpected ally, uh, maybe in the form of a former enemy. Here's the problem I have with that. I want to create some just drop-in adventures where you can just. I haven't really settled on like a level or that has to be grounded in a world or an ongoing campaign with a history. And the problem I have where I got stuck there was, this is going to involve an unexpected ally, but how do you have an old enemy unless you force characters to either create a backstory or you've got a former enemy that they didn't kill or utterly, you know, render powerless or completely just take off the table in a previous adventure. Somebody, how do we want to do that? So let's roll some of these dice here and see if we can get a little bit of a unstuck from that path. How else are we going to get an unexpected ally if it's not an old enemy that someone you wouldn't expect help from? So first is to roll a d6 for a question, and the question: who, what, when, where? Who, what, where, when, why, and how? And I get a 3. Where? Okay. What else have we got going on here? Next is to roll a d10 for the mood. Where? And I got a 6. So the mood is optimistic. And then we get a subject. We're going to roll a d8 for this last thing here, the subject. And I get a 7, which gives me person. Where? Optimistic person. All right, I already paired unexpected and ally in to say this is you're going to have some sort of ally that you weren't expecting to get. Let's move that word where to the front of that. Where an unexpected ally who is an optimistic person. So where there's a question about where do we meet this person? I'll go back and fill that in later. Where are we going to meet this unexpected ally who is an optimistic person? Well, already I'm getting an idea of introducing some NPC who at least, and we'll see where this goes. At least on the surface, appears to be almost naively optimistic, or maybe overeager. Maybe this is someone who just needs the party's help. but they're completely they're underestimating the difficulty of the task. They have no sense of danger, something like that. Maybe either a very young person or a very eccentric person. We'll see where else the prompts take us. So the next prompt is reveal. So the optimistic person, do they reveal themselves or do they reveal some information? Do they reveal something? Reveal implies there was something previously unknown or hidden that is now out in the open. Um, so they reveal, and then we get challenge, which is the next prompt. And I'm looking ahead a little bit to see if I can make sense of this. So they can reveal a challenge to a person, but that almost seems kind of like a well, of course, if someone is going to ask you for a favor in an adventuring game, they're going to present a challenge. I think revealing, I don't think that's the challenge that ought to be revealed. It ought to be something else. So they reveal a secret of some kind, which that is going to present some sort of challenge. And then this next word is sort of another one that kind of gets stuck because it's nemesis. All right, so a nemesis uh, could be a rival or an enemy, and we're getting back into this. Well, what is this unexpected ally? Is it a former rival or enemy? Well, that presumes that we're going to have this adventure in a way where you have a rival or an enemy. But now that I'm thinking about it, nemesis isn't just the competition or an enemy. It's really supposed to be kind of an arch enemy. Um, and I was thinking, well, the nemesis of the player characters. What if it's the nemesis of their ally? So what if we're getting swept up in some sort of challenge that you've got sort of your ally and their personal nemesis, and who's maybe the opposite, who's just sort of a very negative. I'm getting into sort of silly cartoon land here for a minute, but maybe we can ground this a little more somehow. Um, but yeah, so let's have we've got an optimistic ally. They're going to reveal a secret, and now we've got a challenge where we've got to stop their nemesis, to stop the allies' nemesis. So the next prompt is tactic. I think we'll get I think what will happen is when the challenge, this needs to be something that requires tactical thinking. So it can't be you're going to just smash your way through it. Um, some sort of skill challenge or something where you just the normal solutions that the type of player characters, the solutions they might normally have at their hand with just their combat abilities, their skills, their spells. I mean, not skills. Maybe won't work. So there's you got to be kind of think through it, and I hate puzzles are always an interesting thing to try to throw in because you think you've got a pretty simple puzzle for people to follow, to solve, and for some reason the players can't do it, and it can bog things down. But we'll have to think about that a little more. Um, the next one is suspense. Uh, and kind of like I did with Inspire, um, I don't know how to make much. Suspense is kind of something you kind of put into the game anyway because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know the outcome. You can ratchet up the tension a little bit, but that seems to be kind of a no-brainer. But let's think about some other uses of the word suspense. Um, we do think of suspense as being not knowing, right? Being kept in the dark. Um, a state of unnatural certain or anxiety. That's the narrative use of suspense. Um, but then there's suspension, which is the act of temporarily interrupting or postponing something. Yeah, I think of the word suspension or suspended. It's not really. It has the same, I think, linguistic root as suspense, but in kind of the way we use it, that's not what we mean. I think suspense is really in this moment of pausing to see what's about to happen and not really knowing what's about to happen versus suspended, which is something is again paused, but I think the connotation on suspended is it's been put on pause for a reason as opposed to I'm just kind of tense because I'm waiting for the next thing to happen. Of course, suspended or suspension can also mean hanging from. I'm suspended from a like hanging from a tree limb or you know a suspension bridge. So it could be hovering, which also kind of gets there. So something is suspended. I mean, suspended animation. I'm going to cheat a little bit and not use the word exactly in its cons to say this. So there's something that has been in a state of suspension that has to be set free or released. All right. The next word is connect. Um, Maybe there's some sort of connection, some kind of circuit or pattern that has to be closed to release the. Again, here's sort of the challenge. We're talking about a challenge. We've got to make some sort of connection to to remove the state of suspension and release whatever it is we're trying to get to, our MacGuffin. Um, and then the last two, experience and reward. I mean, what I want to say is, well, you don't get anything but the experience. Experience is its own reward, um, which sounds stupid, but the more I think about this, I think this ought to be kind of an adventure where maybe there is a little bit of silliness and uh, humor involved. Um, and so maybe there could be some false clues that whatever is going to be in here is going to be worth a lot of money, and uh, that the players are kind of expecting some kind of monetary reward, and then they don't get it. Players can be pretty angry about that. I think you'd have to play it just right. So let's walk back through this and see if we can get something that at least approaches the level of coherence of the last two. The last two adventures that we generated. Okay, what do we got? So, uh, the player character is going to run into this optimistic person, almost comically, naively optimistic person, in a place you would not expect to see them because we had where and unexpected. So let's say we're in a very grim kind of setting. Maybe it's a cemetery, or maybe it's just a spooky forest or swamp or something like that. But here's this cheerful, bright, optimistic person who reveals to them uh, that they have a secret that actually I guess they don't have to reveal the secret. Secret was not a thing. They reveal to them that they are in a race with their nemesis, their rival, who is maybe kind of the opposite, not just an opposite to them, but almost and again an almost in an eccentric or absurd level of negative. If this person is optimistic and hopeful, here's a person who is pessimistic and negative, and they are in a race with one another to free something, an artifact, perhaps to free an artifact or a treasure from a location that is no one has been ever been able to figure it out before. How to release this thing, but it's going to be very bad if this nemesis gets their hands on it. So this is gonna lead to sort of a tactical challenge, which is maybe more puzzles, traps, maybe kind of a funhouse dungeon kind of a adventure, and it's gonna probably result in having to bring two objects together, maybe two keys or two things that are lost in the dungeon. So there'd be a series of tactical challenges to obtain the two things you need to physically connect them, and it will release uh, what's inside, and then what turns out to be inside is probably, I would say, we turn this on its head. It's absolutely worthless to anybody but this optimistic kind of fool of a person who you know maybe if they lose and all things, it's kind of a funny ending if they fail, and the nemesis character is the one that beats him to it and somehow opens the vault, or the solves the puzzle. they find that it's something that they just see no value in. Maybe it's just you know some words written on a stone, or just something that has absolutely no monetary value. Uh, and so or maybe the players defeat the nemesis and they help the person, and this Optimus is just tickled to death that they've now got this worthless object. And there's actually no reward here except the actual experience points the players are going to get. In fact, they may be out some cash. Um, I think if this was a side quest and didn't last long and it was just fun, if you made these two maybe characters engaging and interesting and entertaining, um, that might be fun. Uh, this is obviously not something that you want this to be like a 3 to 4 session uh, grind, only to find that they don't get it and there's no treasure. This really ought to be like a 1 session, 1 shot kind of a thing, which is what I was kind of hoping with the other two that we put together. So yeah, there's what I come up with this one. I'll continue to work on this one and craft it. I think the second one that I did this month was a little more clear, the little murder mystery. And the first one I came up with was not quite as nailed down, where a patron prompts you to deliver a message, and then you get sucked into uncovering an ancient secret for a secret order. Um, Here we're just on a slate up. Hey, there's a great treasure, and you can share in its value if you help me get it. And well, it turns out that all it is it'd be even funny if it was just like a dirty joke or something. Maybe not a dirty joke if you're thinking about a pure, hopeful, optimistic character, but yeah, now I'm picturing some gnomes. Like you've got a very happy-go-lucky kind of gnome, and his uh, nemesis is a wicked kind of gnome, and that would certainly fit well with sort of mechanical traps and puzzles in a dungeon. And then classically gnomes, at least the AD&D era, were known for their tricks and their jokes and their love of humor and Garl Glittergold. The patron deity of gnomes was also a trickster deity, and used a lot of jokes and deception and stuff to humiliate and neutralize his opponents. Um, so this may be a gnome themed uh, uh, adventure when we get to it. So that sounds fun. I'll continue to work on that. So now I've got 3 kind of short adventures that I can kind of whip up together. And maybe if I get a little chance to write them up, I might share them in more detail in the future. So anyway, I think this is my longest one, but that concludes RPG-A-Day 2025. I want to thank you guys for listening, and be sure and check out. I know from the usual cast of characters, friends, and colleagues in the Anchor podcast sphere. I know the GMologist has been doing these daily. Joe Richter at Hindsightless has done these daily. The other Joe of the Decahedron podcast has been doing daily. The Pink Phantom has been doing these daily. And so I'll link all of them. And I also know that the Pink Phantom, like me, we arrived totally without conferring with one another at an idea of using the prompts to build an adventure, although he's building one big adventure and I've built 3 small ones. And then Jason at the Nerds RPG Variety Cast has been reflecting on um, chunks of prompts, kind of like I have. He's taken chunks of prompts at a time and then just look back over some adventures he's played in or ran and how those prompts fit into what happened. So of course this is going to post on maybe the 30th or 31st of the month. So those are things, if you haven't been listening, you might have to go back and listen to. The nice thing is, because they're RPG-A-Day, they're very short segments. You can just sort of binge listen to them and get all caught up pretty easily. So that said, thanks for listening. I hope you're having have had a good August. And wherever you are out there, take care of yourself and make someone happy today. Thanks for listening to the Arcane Alienist podcast. The music you're hearing is Come and Get It by Scott Holmes Music. The cover art is by Dave Bone. Be sure to check out his stuff at ironseer.com. You can leave me a message. I have my SpeakPipe account linked to the show description. You can also send me an email at arcane.alienist@gmail.com. Just embed a voice memo, or I'll just read the text to your email during a future episode. Once again, thanks so much for listening.